To grant what the AG is seeking, in our own view, though the courts are yet to decide on it, will amount to amendment of the law.
States to know fate soon as Supreme Court reserves judgment on federal government suit on local government autonomy. 15 years after privatization, the never-dying chant, "Up NEPA," reverberates in cities and towns. NTA reviews how that might be symptomatic of subsisting challenges in Nigeria's power sector.
Services that enable them to illegally access restricted central admission processing systems.
And police clamps down on syndicates specialized in forgery of JAMB results. A warm welcome to you to NTA Network News on the NTA. I am Jummai Yusuf. Reading with me tonight is Benny, who is on standby for business news. Remember, you can watch this news broadcast live on nta/live.ng and other social media platforms displayed on your screen for updates. We kickstart the news tonight with reports from the judiciary as the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suit filed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, praying the court to grant full autonomy to local governments in Nigeria. Judiciary correspondent Austin Anyebe reports that this was after parties in the matter adopted their final written addresses.
At first this proceeding, all the 36 states of the Federation were represented in court. Justice Garba Lawal, leading the 7-man panel of justices, sought a celebrated hearing of the matter, thereby giving an order to parties to file their final written addresses. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, in adopting his address, urged the Supreme Court to grant all the relief sought, which include an order prohibiting state governors from embarking on unilateral, arbitrary, and unlawful dissolution of democratically elected local government officials, an order to withhold the funds meant for local governments in such states that unlawfully dissolves democratically elected local government officials through illegal Transitional Implementation Committee. Also, an order to allow the monthly allocation of local governments to be directly paid to them from the Federation account in line with the provisions of the Constitution as against alleged unlawful joint accounts created by governors. The Attorney General of the Federation urged the justices to go through his submission and grant all the prayers. The 36 states defendants in the matter took turn to adopt processes filed, which include counter affidavits and written addresses as their arguments in the case in strong opposition to the reliefs being sought by the federal government. They urged the justices of the Apex Court to dismiss the plaintiff's originating summons with substantial cost.
Most of us in all the states of the Federation have contended that that is not the true position. And we have submitted our true positions in respect of all the various states to the court. So we are waiting for the court's own verdict.
The court of Nigeria has no original jurisdiction to entertain this matter on the ground that the relief sought are beneficial to the local governments of Nigeria who are not parties to the matter.
To grant what the AG is seeking, in our own view, though the courts are yet to decide on it, will amount to amendment of the law.
After parties adopted their written addresses, which represent their argument in the matter, the court adjourned the matter for judgment, with date to be communicated to parties. From the Supreme Court, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
Now let's bring you an analysis on local government autonomy in Nigeria over the years. While the vision is for local government administration to bring governance closer to the people, this yearning by the highest population of citizens in the country has, however, become sort of a mirage. Now let's join Tessie Omere, who is standing by with the analysis. Hello, Tessie.
Constitution provides for a federal system with 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local governments. The 3rd tier is envisioned to bring government and governance closer to the people. While the 1999 Constitution, as amended, recognizes 774 local governments in Nigeria, Section 162, subsection 3, which provides for the federation account, says the federation account shall be distributed among the federal and state governments and local governments as prescribed by the National Assembly. However, instead of going to them directly, funds meant for local governments only get to the councils through the state, through what is called the Joint Account Allocations Committee, JAC. And many have faulted these as a strangulation of the democratically elected local government over time, prompting the federal government to take action. In May 22, 2020, former President Muhammadu Buhari signed Executive Order 10 to grant financial autonomy to local governments, the judiciaries, and state assemblies. However, Supreme Court on February 11, 2022 nullified the executive order. When the Tinubu administration on Inauguration Day on May 29, 2023 announced the removal of subsidy on petroleum products, it had hoped its palliative programs will reach greater number of impacted Nigerians through the local government administrations. The federal government on August 17, 2023 approved 5 billion naira optional intervention to 36 states and the FCT and followed it up with the release of 42,000 metric tons of grains to states. An analysis by the Vanguard newspaper on May 18, 2024 showed local governments in 19 states being administered by caretaker committees set up by the governors. In the bid to find lasting solution, the federal government on May 20, 2024 sued 36 governors at the Supreme Court over local government autonomy.
We're not done with legal matters yet as we head over to Kano, where a federal high court says it has jurisdiction to continue hearing the case of human rights violation against the deposed Emir Aminu Ado Bayero. Elizabeth Yila Lamido reports that the matter was adjourned to the 14th of June for hearing of motions and pending applications.
The Federal High Court sitting in Kano on the 23rd of May 2024 had granted an ex parte order stopping Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf of Kano from reinstating Muhammad Sanusi II, pending the determination of a substantive suit filed against the reinstatement. The order also kicked against the abolishment of 4 emirates, Bichi, Gaya, Arai, and Rano, directing all parties involved to maintain the status quo ante, pending the determination of the suit filed by Aminu Babbat and Agundi. At the sitting, which held on the 6th of June, Justice Abdullahi Muhammad Liman, after hearing submissions from counsel to the applicant and defendants on matter of jurisdiction, the sitting was adjourned to the 13th of June 2024 for ruling on the matter. When court resumed hearing on Thursday, the presiding judge, Justice Abdullahi Muhammad Liman, relying on Section 42, subsection 1 of the Constitution, said the court has powers of jurisdiction to hear the case.
Today, we have successfully convinced the court that the court has jurisdiction, and we are coming back here tomorrow to take other applications.
The substantive matter will be heard by tomorrow, so we will now see whether jurisdiction alone can, give the court powers based on its finding to sustain the application before the Honorable Court.
The presiding judge adjourned the matter to Friday, 14th of June, for the hearing of the motions and pending applications. In Kano, Elizabeth Villa, NTA News.
Well, we're still in the thick of celebrating Nigeria's democracy as we recall the glowing tributes showered on President Bola Tinubu as the first progressive president in the country, who rose from the trenches in defense of democracy to lead the country. Various speakers, including the number 2 citizen, Kashim Shettima, said this at a dinner to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Nigeria's Democracy Day in Abuja. State House correspondent Musbau Dan Wahab tells us more.
It's one more moment to cap the celebration of an unprecedented democratic feat in Nigeria's history, the silver anniversary of a country's democracy. But this night, the focal point was almost eclipsed by the descriptions of the contributions made every step of the way by these men now at the head of affairs.
When you were one of those whom Chief MKO Abiola sent to talk to Abacha, and one incident that happened was that the security men tried to shove you away and today you are the president of this country.
The speakers believe the story of a democratic journey in Nigeria cannot be complete without the story of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. These are those who know Ashiwaju right from the streets, and perhaps more than the man at the center appreciates himself.
This is the first time that a true Democrat, a true progressive, who took part in the political wing of the struggle, in the economic, financial wing of the struggle, in the activism of the struggle, on the streets, on the barricades, will become the president of Nigeria.
They reconvened the Senate under Ahmed Ebute, the president, and declared Abuja government illegal. Can you imagine a group of senators sitting down and declaring a military government illegal and was charged to court?
And the other man, who was not in the trenches, is now the second in command, who saw how Tinubu saved the country's democracy after its return since 1999.
When his contemporaries were struggling for a space on the dinner table in Abuja, and in the process throwing their colleagues, their allies under the bus, he took the opportunity to build an alternative platform for the Nigerian democracy. Without this gentleman seated here, Nigeria could have been turned into a one-party state. We owe him a debt of gratitude.
Appreciation for the eulogies, but then President Tinubu's attention is now obviously focused on unity and development of the country.
That is the reason that we say we hand over a banner without stain to our children and grandchildren. Is it not true that Nigeria is greater than any one of us? That the unity of this country cannot be traded.
Following the trend of insecurity and vandalism, the president harped on the need for leaders at all levels, including parents, to inculcate values of patriotism in the younger generations to maintain the peace and unity of a country.
If we gather as we gather here tonight, encourage our children about the charter of our value system. As they look upon me as a leader to make the changes, what about us, the rest of you, the rest of your children making those changes too? What do you tell them? How do you teach them? Whatever we have to invest in our national orientation, I think we should do it.
And you!
And now, the journey of the democratic process continues. So also is the hope for a greater Nigeria. From the State House, Musbao and Wahab, NTA News.
Now on to other matters. This year marks a decade since the launch of the International Albinism Awareness Day. And yes, though we see the fruits of heightened awareness, raising activities around the world on the rights of persons with albinism, it is clear that the way ahead is still long and fraught with hurdles. Now let me bring in the founder and chief executive officer, TAF Africa, Jake Epele, who himself is a testament of the success of the advocacy. Mr. Jake continues to lead efforts here and internationally to fight for the rights of persons with albinism in the global attempt towards demystifying albinism. Mr. Jake, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. You're welcome. I'm sorry, I have you all the time on Good Morning Nigeria. You're welcome to Network News. That's what happens.
Thank you, Ma, and good evening, Nigerians, and happy celebration to the community of persons with albinism.
Yes, and so let's begin. When advocates say inclusion is strength and that gains in that regard must reflect the bulk of some of the deep efforts that human rights have made so far, what does it actually mean for persons with albinism to be able to enjoy the fruits of these efforts and advocacy?
Well, I agree, inclusion is strength. It's also on record that when one person is left behind, others cannot move forward. So on the strength of that, the persons with albinism have enjoyed tremendous human right protection and participation in the political space. It's on record that persons with albinism, throughout the data that INEC has collected, leads the entire community of persons with disability in terms of numbers by how much they have registered to participate in the electoral process. And so that's the work of being part of an inclusive process which the electoral process in Nigeria have provided. INEC had done extremely well in creating the framework for inclusion of persons with disability and persons with albinism inclusive.
Yes, creating an environment for people with albinism to be able to vote. We've seen in other countries how dangerous it is for someone to be living with albinism. We've seen in places like Tanzania, Zimbabwe, how they are used for sacrifice. And do you see some of the gains made so far, especially here in Nigeria, as a good beginning, at least? And as far as public attitude is concerned, do you also see a ray of hope for full inclusion of persons with albinism in the future here in Nigeria?
Absolutely. This is what we have been fighting for. By the way, it's on record that Nigeria is the first country in the world to formulate the national policy on albinism, which is being implemented at the moment by the Federal Ministry of Education. As a matter of fact, kudos to the Minister of Education and the Permanent Secretary. Albinism do have a budget in the budget layout of the Federal Ministry of Education. Okay. And that's a good thing for us.
Yes, and congratulations in order, Mr. Jake Epele, founder, TAF Africa. Thank you so much for coming on NTA Network News. It's a pleasure, as always, to interview.
Thank you, and thank you to the management of NTA, especially the DG, whom I will always say that he's almost quarter to me.
Indeed. There's more right after this break. Don't go away. In Niger State, rescue operations are still ongoing 9 days after a mining pit at Galadima Kogo in Shiroro local government area collapsed, with 30 persons still trapped under the debris. A statement by the Director of Information and Strategy, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Habibu Abubakar Wushishi, indicates that 9 days after the tragic incident where 5 people were rescued and 2 confirmed dead, the rescue operations are still ongoing at site. He explained that the rescue team are performing the task manually due to the difficult terrain around the collapsed pit, which is responsible for the slow pace of work at the site. Habibu reiterated that government's commitment to rescuing those still trapped under the rubbles. Meanwhile, another mining pit is reported to have collapsed in Amale, Bikoro local government area of the state. 2 persons are already confirmed dead in the incident involving several artisanal miners, while 5 others are receiving treatment at a health facility in the area. Do you wonder why, after 19 years of being scrapped, chants of Up NEPA still rings out whenever power supply is restored in Nigeria? Now, these days, we hear the shouts surprisingly, even in the settlements. One would hardly expect to hear them. Funny, right? Yes, it is pertinent to ask if this is indicative of a much larger issue. Tonight, we will delve into the power sector, exploring the nexus between the rather intriguing, never-dying chants of Up NEPA and subsisting challenges in the sector. Nnamdi Odipo tells us more.
The disappointing silence that trails public power outages can indeed be deafening. And when this happens, it usually takes just seconds to hear that resounding shout. The nostalgic chant that refuses to die even after 19 whole years. NEPA, the former National Electric Power Authority, was unbundled, privatized, transformed, transposed. Well, describe it however you want, but the point is, NEPA was supposedly done with many, many years ago and should have been gone and faded from people's memories in 2024. But guess what? Even the 5-6-year-olds of today are familiar with the two-word phrase. Children may generally be confused about many things, but not when they can resume watching cartoons on television shortly after public power supply is restored. So for them, it is a magic phrase to make the lights come on and stay on.
I'm so excited when NEPA bring light because I'm going to watch cartoon. Our parents told us that when NEPA bring lights, we should shout up NEPA so that the lights will stay.
And honestly, who can blame this child? With the power sector's track record, we need all the magic we can get. The daily average supply of electricity from the national grid is pegged at about 3,400 megawatts, and with increases in tariffs for some classes of customers, the question still subsists. How can we resolve the issue of availability, reliability, and affordability of electricity by businesses and homes? Truth is, Up NEPA is not just a chant. It has come to represent more of a cry for help, a plea for reliable power supply, and a reminder that, well, in spite of recent gains in the power sector, we still have a long way to go.
I think they should explore other areas of providing electricity to the masses.
We are appealing to government to address fluctuation in electricity supply.
Otherwise, our power sector, and that's the flip side, would literally remain in the dark ages. And that's a wrap, or should I say a blackout. In Abuja, Nnamdi Odipo, NTA News.
That's a good one, Nnamdi Odipo there. And let's get some more thoughts on this issue as we're being joined by the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Rural Electrification Agency, Abba Abubakar Aliu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'd like to get your reaction to the poses raised in the report. You know, Joshua Ojito has another report that will back up what we're going to talk about.
Stored power generation capacity stands at 13,000 megawatts, while the transmission arm has the capacity to wheel 8,700 megawatts. However, over the decades, available power generated, transmitted and distributed continue to hover around 5,000 megawatts or less. This perhaps is grossly inadequate for a country of more than 200 million people. This raises questions of availability of electricity to power Africa's largest economy, and the conversation continues on the need to harness other sources of energy, such as renewable and off-grid mini solutions to bridge the gap and increase access to electricity in the country. Also, the affordability of electricity in Nigeria is still a subject of discourse among end users, even as federal government continues to subsidize the product and sustain interventions in the sector. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
As Joshua Ojito attempting to break down the issue in that report. Now let's bring in my guest, Abba Abubakar Aliu. Tell me, why do we often find ourselves in the throes of the argument that Nigeria's transition from a vertically integrated, publicly owned electricity network to a largely privately owned and bundled electricity network is simply not working? Now, unlike the UK and the UK's transition in the 80s and 90s, Nigeria appears to have only achieved structural transformation in the power sector, and it's finding it increasingly difficult to sustain technical transformation since the unbundling of NEPA. What are your thoughts, and what has been done to change that perception?
Thank you very much. I think I will argue otherwise, as in one question that we did not ask ourselves is, what would have been the situation of the electricity sector in the country had it been the privatization has not taken place? We have not yet ask ourselves that question. Vertical integration of electricity sector is one of the best things that has happened, and we have seen that fact that privatizing the sector and bringing in, creating enabling environment for private sector to come into that sector is one of the things that crystallize investment and enhance efficiency in that aspect. And in the Nigerian context, from the time the sector was privatized to date, we have really recorded a number of key achievements. Of course, there are areas of improvement. However, if you look at the number of private sector investment that has come into being, for example, it's through the privatization that the Azura Power was able to come into the grid, which is one of the best generation assets the country has at the moment, a 450 megawatt. Not only that, it is also the privatization of the sector that crystallized the emergence of the renewable subsector of the electricity sector in the country, where, for example, the Rural Electrification Agency is playing, and we are working also in the aspect of bringing in private sector to put in their investment and build many mini grids. To date, we impacted over 7.8 million Nigerians. We have built over 150 mini grids, and at the same time also impacted in different sectors of the economy. We have built mini grids for universities that is going to provide for over 350,000 students. We have built mini grids for health centers, tertiary health centers and primary health centers. We are also intervening in the agricultural sector. This wouldn't have been possible without the privatization.
Yes, all well and good now. You've reeled out some achievements in the power sector. Now, how strongly do you believe that the current Electricity Act will create the biggest opportunity, like it's been told to Nigerians, to solve Nigeria's electricity problem, at least on a state-by-state basis? And is it far-reaching to make it really work?
Yeah, so the new Electricity Act is one of the best things also that has happened in the power sector in the country. It has created an opportunity to deepen the opportunities for that will provide the private sector to come into the sector. One thing that is clear is that the government alone cannot address the challenge within the sector. So what the government now is doing is creating an enabling environment for the private sector to come into the space. Now, the new Electricity Act has provided the state with an opportunity to now partner with the private sector in the aspect of generation, transmission, and distribution. And this is one of really, really important aspects that will get the private sector to come into it. So states can now develop their own regulation, create this enabling environment for the private sector to come into the space.
Indeed, and encourage entrepreneurship growth in the states and all that. Thank you so much, Director MD Rural Electrification Agency Abubakar Aliu. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Sims Nigeria Limited, an authorized distributor of electronics and TLC, one of the leading manufacturers of electrical home appliances globally, have officially announced a partnership. Bolaji Akim reports that with the collaboration, Sims Nigeria Limited is now the sole distributor of TCL products in Nigeria.
Announcing the partnership, management of Sims Nigeria Limited, with over 30 years of being a reliable distributor of quality electronics and home appliances, and TCL with over 40 years of inspiring greatness and pioneering new innovation, said the union, which has been on since the beginning of this year, will bring comfortability to homes across the country, provide opportunity for Nigerians to have access to quality electrical appliances with latest technology innovation produced by TCL at affordable prices in all Sims outlets across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country.
We don't just sell products to end users, we also bring them the quality. We want to improve their life quality. So I think number one, that is quality. Number two is the service. Sims, they have complete local system. Yes, and TCL, we have this strong background. If we join together, we can provide, better service, to the whole market.
For SIMS management, the partnership will not only give lovers of technology value for their money, it will also promote skills development, boost the nation's economic growth, and provide job opportunity for Nigerians.
It's a global brand in electronics. SIMS, we've always prided ourselves in making available the latest technology for the Nigerian market. We've seen the inroads they're making globally. We've seen that, Nigeria cannot be left out in what's going on out there. So that's the reason why we've come together to make sure that the products are for the Nigerian market as well.
With guarantee warranty for products purchased, service after sales, and efficient customer support services, TCL and SIMS Nigeria Limited say putting consumer satisfaction in the forefront of their partnership is a priority. In Lagos, Bolaji Akim, NTA News.
Its achievements in the provision of accessible, affordable and quality healthcare delivery service, as well as habitable environment and potable water supply. The state government is saying that the gains being made are leading to massive transformation in the state. Mohammed Goni explores the strides made in the last 1 year of Governor Zulum's second tenure in office.
The task of building back Borno better requires a quality healthcare delivery system that ensures a population with sound mind, sound body, ready to partake in the all-inclusive tax. This informed the decision of the present administration in Borno to make deliberate policies aimed at changing the narrative in the health sector through continued reconstruction of health facilities such as general hospitals and primary healthcare centers destroyed as a result of the insurgency, as well as building and equipping new ones with drugs and other consumables.
We are here to launch the distribution of green water, drugs, and other items needed in the maternity section of some of our hospitals.
30-bed capacity primary healthcare centers are either ongoing or completed and equipped in communities such as Limankara, Shuari, Kaleri, and Zermari, as well as Diar, and each of these is equipped with basic amenities, while 20 primary healthcare centers had been provided with a solar power system across the state. The state, in the period under review, has commenced construction of the College of Nursing and Midwifery in Goza.
Government has decided to establish 2 schools of nursing in Borno State. One is in Goza and one is in Mongono, in order to bridge the manpower gap in the health sector.
Issues related to the environment is another area of concern to the Borno State government, having noticed that it had lost 80% of its vegetation to insurgents and climate change. Hence, the need for various communities to protect their environment and be climate smart. To that effect, the government plans to raise 5 million seedlings for distribution across the state. To ensure a healthy environment devoid of diseases, the state government has continued with the construction of more drainage network within Maiduguri Metropolitan Council and environs. Closely related to the environment is safe drinking water, sanitation and hygiene, which is fundamental to improving standards of living for people, giving rise to construction of about 63 hybrid and upper aquifer boreholes and basement formations equipped with overhead tanks, water reticulation, and array of taps in 22 local government areas, in addition to massive rehabilitation of the broken ones. The strides made in the 3 sectors in the period under review are in addition to the various policies and programs executed, as well as achievements recorded in the last 5 years of Governor Zulum administration. In Maiduguri, Mohammed Goni, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of Tanimu Yakubu as the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, following the expiration of the tenure of Ben Akabweze. An accomplished economist, Tanimu Yakubu was Chief Economic Advisor to the late former President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua from 2007 to 2010. President Tinubu thanks the outgoing Director General Akabweze for his services and wished him success in his future endeavors. The President expects the new Director General to enhance the provision of efficient and qualitative budget functions with a view to promoting fiscal sustainability, transparency and accountability for national development. And President Bola Tinubu has extended his congratulations to the Director General of the World Trade Organization. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, on her 70th birthday. The President extols the Director General for her service to the nation and efforts towards building resilient institutions. Meanwhile, the President also congratulated Otumba Adekunle Ojora on his 92nd birthday. The President salutes the elder statesman, recalling his contributions to advancing the economic well-being of the nation through enterprise development, as well as by encouraging indigenous participation in critical sectors of the economy. Time now to join Benny for business news. Hello, Benny. What's happening in the world of business? Bearish or bullish?
It is actually bullish. But to start with, the Accountant General of the Federation, Olatoyin Madeyin, has told accountants generals in the country that they must embrace innovation and adapt to new technologies to enhance their capabilities as stewards of public resources. She was speaking at the opening of a capacity building training in Abuja. For accountants generals, Madeyin said transparency in public finance management is key and called for the adoption of openness in communicating the true state of public finance in navigating contemporary issues.
In our role as Accountant General, we must champion transparency by ensuring that financial information is accessible, comprehensible, and timely. By doing so, we enable the public and other stakeholders to make informed decisions and hold us accountable for our actions.
He needs to know the new rules, he needs to know the new regulations and innovations. So that's why we organized this particular workshop to update those that have been around and those that are new on the job.
Because if they prepare the account on time, publish it on time, people will now look at it, get convinced that they are doing the right thing, and they see the projects, the money is being used. They will have a trust in government, and that will boost the working of our system.
As Africa's business community converged on the Caribbean for the 2024 Afri-Exim Bank annual meetings, these voices are echoing the rhythm of progress as the continent wakes, pulling together resources and expertise to forge a path, signaling a new dawn.
We need to have common local content rules or rules of origin to foster industrial development in Africa. Second, to foster investment in Africa.
Look, when you import things into your country, you are importing poverty, exporting jobs out. So we have to stop it.
Lagos State is one of Nigeria's 36 states, and we're responsible for more than over a third of the nation's entire GDP. In fact, we have a GDP that is greater than all but 7 African countries.
This is business news. Network news continues, but after this break, do stay with us.
You are watching NTA Network News. The collaboration between the Nigerian Police Force and Joint Admission and Matriculation Board has yielded results with the arrest of a syndicate that specializes in manipulating JAMB scores for candidates. Francis Form reports that the suspects were paraded earlier today at the force headquarters, Abuja.
Reflecting on the actions, and we deeply regret it, and we ask for forgiveness.
These suspects paraded by the police are allegedly responsible in operating fake JAMB website. The suspects are responsible for the falsification of fake JAMB admission letters and websites to defraud unsuspecting JAMB candidates. The suspects were arrested by the operatives of the Nigeria Police Force National Cybercrime Center at different locations in Cross River State.
Belong to a syndicate who intentionally and knowingly conspired and procured amongst themselves services that enabled them to illegally access JAMB restricted central admission processing systems, CAPS, and e-facility respectively. and proceeded to alter and delete other candidates' previous admission letters and inputted fake details.
We have all that it takes. Technology has made things very easy. You will be caught, no matter how long it takes. Some of them have graduated, they are serving, and we're fishing them out. All the years you've suffered, 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, depending on the program you've gone into, is wasted. You'll be prosecuted, you'll be jailed, and you lose that certificate. So it's better for you to do what is right.
NPA further assures that it will continue to work with other examination bodies to curb the menace of exam malpractice. Francis from NTA News.
Now, one unique feature of Nigeria's democratic system since independence, especially in Kano, is the strategic place entertainers and political press singers occupy in mobilizing the electorate during electioneering campaign. No doubt, Konkosia movement in Kano has enjoyed that, as the group are back again to showcase the achievements of Abba Kabir Yusuf as the Kano State Governor. Aminu Umar captures the sights and sounds of the anniversary dinner held in Kano.
That was the swearing-in of Abba Kabir Yusuf as Kano State Governor a year ago. Among the key contributors to his election victory were political press singers and entertainers from the famous Kannywood, at the instance of Senior Special Assistant to Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf on engagement with artist Tijani Gandu to celebrate his 1 year in office.
So what we are going to do is that we have to exercise patience. Inshallah, Abba Kabir will make it, and Kano is changing.
Our educational sector, he has stated a state of emergency right now on education.
I've seen a lot of students been travel outside the country, and so many times, the governor pay school fees, he pays some exam fees to different students just to encourage them.
While asking for more support from the Kano people, the artists have the belief that Abba Kabir Yusuf will not let Kanawa down. The event featured performance from different artists, showcasing the governor's achievement within 1 year. In Kano, Aminu Umar, NTA News.
There will be more on Network News after this break. A quick check on the weather prospect for Friday is next.
Joining us. Presently, we have some rain clouds hanging around Borno, which is expected to propagate to the west, giving morning thunderstorms to parts of Bauchi, Gombe, Adamawa, Taraba, Plateau, Benue, Nasarawa, and the Federal Capital Territory. While the southeastern parts of Abia, Enugu, Imo, some parts of Cross River and Akwa Ibom are expected to experience morning rains. Later in the day, we expect more rains to affect the coastal cities of the country, including parts of Ekiti, Ogun, Ondo, some parts of Imo State. However, rainfall accompanied with thunderstorms is expected over most parts of the central cities, the northwestern region, as well as Taraba and Adamawa State. Please stay tuned for more updates on the marine and the temperature forecast. I am Joyce Ogunleye, and I'll see you again.
And that's Network News for tonight. On behalf of the production crew, thank you so much for your time. I am Jummai, Yusuf.